Welcome to February. Happy Groundhog Day.
Yeah. That's today.
Yeah, February 2nd, Groundhog Day. I don't really know what that means, but it's a love month is what it is. That's what I know. February, it has Valentine's in it, and it's designated primarily as the love month. And so I am speaking of love this month, and in particular, I'm speaking of connective relationships. Excuse me. We all know that you cannot give what you don't have. Absolutely. And so I thought for this first Sunday of the month, we would talk about and cultivate what is the love that I am? What is this love that I have within me so that I can bring that forth, I can demonstrate it, I can give it out and let it be known. Now, it's interesting because we humans are kind of a complex breed because we have this self that we are. The only thing is, it's kind of twofold. We have a self that's got the little s, and it is our individualized self. It is that personality that we have. And many times it's called the ego. And it's a good thing. It helps us differentiate ourselves from other people. And that's a good thing. You know, it gives us an individualized expression of the one power and the one self, that's the capital S, that we are as well. So we have this divine whole energy self that is pure and infinite and absolute unconditional love, and it is continually playing with the small self, with this little small s on there. And so in order for us to cultivate lasting, rich, warm relationships, we need to combine those two entities, those two representations of what we are. The large self with the S, with the capital S, that is unconditional love, and the small s, the ego self, the individual self. And it's an interesting play for many of us because a lot of the time, I believe, unless we're very diligent, the small s wants to take over and wants to be in charge and wants to lead our life for the majority of the time. And that small s, God love it, many times is full of doubt because it thinks it is separate from its source. And so it tries to make itself in control. It tries to make itself demanding and dominant. It can reflect out into the world as either someone that is over-controlling, that is dominating, that's maybe even narcissistic, I know everything, or it can be doubtful, shameful, judging, evaluating, feeling less than, bringing forth that fight or flight type of mentality. So the key is to be aware of which one is in charge at the moment. To be aware, is my small self acting out here? Is my small self running the show at this moment? Or am I allowing that large self, that capital S, to run the show for me? I believe most of us would agree that if we allow the large S, the big self, that whole self, to run the show, things go well. But our little ego self might not assess it that same way. How do you feel? If we're going to be aware of which self is in charge and which self is acting and on our behalf, the key to it is to look at and be aware of how you're feeling. That little ego self feels small, feels helpless, feels angry, feels defensive, all of those things. Does that feel good? I don't see any head shaking. Yes, it feels really good. No. Does not feel good at all. Rosenberg, in his Nonviolent Communication, states, "In our language there is a word with enormous power to create shame and guilt. The violent word which we commonly use to evaluate ourselves is so deeply ingrained in our consciousness that many of us would have trouble imagining how to live without it. It is the word should, as in I should have known better, or I shouldn't have done that." And we've talked about that here, in our teachings. Don't should on yourself. And to be aware of that self-talk. When you hear that word going even through your head, not even verbalizing it, I should have known better. I should have done that. Notice that, just notice. And again, don't put any blame on yourself because that just adds to it, right? Just notice that this is my separate ego self that seems to be in charge at the moment. Pat it on the head and say, thank you for sharing. And don't continue to go down that path. Now, it's interesting, as I was thinking this week about the word mistake. And I was having a conversation with someone. Well, actually what happened is I got a call at 7 o'clock in the morning. And since I'm retired now, I'm able to sleep in and not have to get up at 5:30 or 6 or whatever. So I'm lying in bed and the phone rings and I glance over and it's a FaceTime phone call. And here I see this familiar face and I went, oh. And so I picked up the phone, it was ringing, and I answered it, but I put it toward the wall. And I said, what are you doing calling me, FaceTiming me? I'm still in bed. And the response was, I didn't mean to do that. It was a mistake. And I don't know what happened. I just got in the car, and all of a sudden it just was ringing. And now you have to be aware, you see, that because, and I'm just going to tell on myself, I'm a tummy sleeper. I like to sleep on my stomach, okay? Well, I have these beautiful little bangs, and they look beautiful now. Well, first thing in the morning when I wake up, those bangs are where? Sticking straight up. Which does not look very appealing, honestly, to tell you the truth. And so I knew that's how I was going to look. And so I'm facing it toward the wall going, what are you doing? I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. It was a mistake. Well, my response was, there are no mistakes. And at that point, I turned it onto myself. And of course, you can see yourself, you can see the other person, and then you can see you. So I could see, yep, the bangs are sticking straight up. And we both just said, well, I don't know how this happened, but I love you. Have a good day. Goodbye. And so afterward, I was thinking how I had said, there are no mistakes. And that's one of the things that we do say in this language of our teaching. There are no mistakes. Well, I wonder about that. Because there are things that happen that we don't consciously intend to do. And actually what I was thinking about was, I've made a mistake or two in my life. And I called them mistakes. In fact, the first thing that comes to mind is when I was still working, we had a carport that you would park under. And this one morning, not so long before I was starting to retire, and this hadn't been the first time that this has happened. I come whipping around to park under that carport, and I go bang, and I hit the pole with my left front fender, front part of the car, and went, oh, man. And you see, and now that, to me, that was a mistake. Obviously, I didn't want to do that. I want to park in between the poles, not hit the pole. And so and again, this wasn't the first time that had happened. So I didn't learn my lesson from the mistake the first time, did I? What was the lesson? Probably to slow down and pay attention. So there are mistakes that happen in our lives that we need to learn from, we need to grow from, we need to take what the lesson was and move on from it. Not shame ourselves, not, oh my God, I can't believe I did that again. Accept it and move on. This game of life that we're playing, I believe, is always for us. It's always there to encourage us, to help us to grow, to help us be more of this infinite being that we don't even know what we are. You know, we have no really clue of the power and the potential and this divine energy that we are. And so when we allow ourselves to step out of that limited, self-imposed, small self description of ourselves, expectation of ourselves, and we step into that larger picture of the large S, of the unlimited self, oh my gosh, what happens? We feel accepting. We feel loved. We feel encouraged. Because that energy, that higher self that we are, only wants what's great for us. God's will is absolute heaven. And when we unite with that, we feel it, we know it. So how do we know what this love is? I believe that one of the best and easiest ways to comprehend, to describe what that love is by reading 1 Corinthians, verse 4. Chapter 13, verse 4 through 7, and then 13. Love is long-suffering and kind. Love does not envy. Love does not make a vain display of itself and does not boast, does not behave itself unseemingly, seeks not its own, is not easily provoked, thinks no evil, rejoices not over iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. And now abide faith, hope, love, these three, but the greatest of these is love. That's what love is. It doesn't envy, it doesn't boast, is accepting. That's what our true self is. And when we make a mistake, that true self is bolstering us up, is patting us on the back, saying, okay, you can do better next time. I'm here for you. I was talking to a friend the other night, and she has taken in her aging father into her home. And it's not something that she eagerly did. He's kind of cantankerous, not easy to be around. But she knew that if she did not do it, he would be out on the street. And so I see her once a month, and the last time I saw her, I heard that this was happening, that he was there, and this, it's a challenge to have someone in your home that is that negative and not, really someone you'd rather be around, honestly. So I asked her, I said, so how's it going? Is your father still there? What's happening? And she said, oh yes, he's still there. She said, but I'll tell you what, I have changed my attitude about his being there. And it was funny because she and I were talking, we had both had the same bracelet on. I'd gotten it at Christmas and she got one. And its bracelets are cool because they have like a chakra colors in them, the beads. And then the bottom part of the bracelet is you add little drops of essential oils to them. And she goes, look at that, you have the same bracelet I do. And she thought we were like blood sisters or something. I didn't know that we had the same bracelet. But she said, I have learned, what I've been doing is I've taking myself to yoga classes. And I'm doing yoga, I don't know how frequently she does it, but routinely. And in those yoga classes, I'm getting meditation for 45 minutes. I don't know if it's daily or weekly or how frequently she does it. But she says, I'll tell you what, in that meditation time has really helped me settle in on understanding that I can have compassion for my father. I have no idea what path he took in his life, what steps he took in his life. I have no idea what could have generated his attitude at this time. It's not for me to know, and it's not for me to judge. And she said it makes all the difference in the world as far as being able to have him there, because I see the bigger picture. I'm not there to judge him on what he's telling me today. I can look beyond that, and I can take a deep breath, and I can just let it go. I don't have to take personally whatever is coming out. And all I can do is do the best that I am doing. And that is absolutely knowing that I could not live with myself if I did not let him live with me. So I believe what she's doing, and I believe that that meditation time is absolutely beneficial, because that's the time when you get to hook up with a direct connection with that individual and an absolute unconditional love. But you need to be still. You need to be quiet. You need to be anticipatory of letting and knowing that this love is engulfing me, is embracing me, is giving me everything that I need. To me, what she is doing is seeing with the eyes of love. Exactly what 1 Corinthians is talking about. So how do we get a loving relationship with anyone? We start with ourselves, don't we? Marianne Williamson said, the most enlightened prayer isn't, "Dear God, send me someone wonderful," but, "Dear God, help me realize that I am someone wonderful." Alan Cohen said, love attracts love, and when you cultivate love from the inside out, the universe will deliver it from the outside in. Deepak Chopra, you will be in love when you know that you are love. Sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? Sounds pretty straightforward. When we love ourselves enough to let go of blame, to let go of judgment. Yes, to learn from our mistakes, to learn from those times that we were less than what we wanted to be. When we love ourselves, not from an egotistic way at all, not from a narcissistic way, that's where we're making that distinction, total distinction, that we are loving ourselves as God loves us. So I say, let's go within, be friends with that love that we are. Get to know it. Acknowledge it. Maybe even befriend it, entertain it, adore it. And then let it have its way with you. You will be surprised. Life will come about in a different route, in a different way than maybe what you expected. It's okay. Love always has your best interest at heart. Always. Open your heart, open your eyes, and see. See what you are. And when you have that unity, that oneness, that wholeness, that's the eyes that you are going to be looking out at the world with. And that's what you're going to be receiving, seeing back at you, is that love. We sang a song earlier this morning, and I'd like us to bring that back out again. I'd like us to sing, I Love Myself the Way I Am, to close up this segment, if you don't mind. You don't have to stand if you don't want, but let's bring out these words, and let's think about them again as we're singing them one more time.
I'll give you a little introduction.
Okay. I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. I'll always be the perfect me. There's nothing to rearrange. I'm beautiful and capable of being the best me I can. And I love myself just the way I am. I love you the way you are. There's nothing you need to do. When I feel love inside myself, it's easy to love you. Behind your fears, your rage and tears, I see your shining star. And I love you just the way you are. I love the world the way it is, 'cause I can clearly see that all the things I judge are done by people just like me. So till the birth of peace on earth that only love can bring, I'll help it grow by loving everything. I love myself the way I am, and still I want to grow. But change outside can only come when deep inside I know I'm beautiful and capable of being the best me I can. And I love myself just the way I am. I love myself just the way I am. Love you all.